And you don't need to use the headphones if you don't want to.
I mean, I always feel fancy when I do, but it's cool.
But sometimes you don't want to ruin your hair or whatever, especially if you're going to do TV and what have you.
Oh, do I look like a person who really... This is the head that anyone guessed today. I did wake up early to attempt to
It's good enough for everybody.
It's good enough for radio, right?
Well, it's good. Well, nobody sees you in radio. I mean, I appreciate you, dialing up for me. I take that as a compliment.
I drooled up.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a photo that I wanted to show you. We might as well just start, ladies and gentlemen. Felicia Day is here in studio. I got a chance to see you at Comic-Con over at the Nerdist Carnival.
Oh, wow, yes, this year.
Yes, and I was supposed to be doing an interview with you, but something happened, and you got rushed right to stage, which here I am right on the side from the little Crayola Pavilion. So that's kind of creepy, just taking your photo off the side of the stage.
That's an angle people shouldn't have for security purposes.
I know, but they felt bad because the interview wasn't going to happen, so they said, you could just stand over here and watch as you did your thing on stage.
What a privilege for
I know,
you.
It was great. And then halfway through, I went and got a burrito at the thing right on the side there.
I really apologize for that. That
not
was
your fault.
I had no knowledge.
It was a busy day. I just talked to the cast of The Hive, and Chris Hardwick's doing like a million different panels. Like, there's so much going on.
It was a nice space. My company, Geek Sundry, is owned by Legendary, and it's kind of like a sister company to Nerdist and Amy Poehler's Smart Girls. And we had, did you see our jousting area?
I saw the jousting. I saw the laser tag stuff that they had. There was a whole bunch of stuff going on. It was amazing.
How many years have you gone to Comic-Con?
That was my first at San Diego.
Really?
Yeah, but I usually travel around, and I do New York all the time. We do our show from there. And this summer, we were traveling all around the country doing different cons. And then it got to the point where I just said, this is enough. We've done too many cons. There's not much more I can get out of more cons this summer. We'll just call it even after San Diego and wait till October for New York.
I do a lot of cons. I'm actually coming back for New York. I'm one of the guests there this year. But I've done cons. Actually, in my book, there's a whole chapter on fans and fan conventions and how they kind of built my career. And I get to do my favorite con this year, which is Dragon Con. Which
in Atlanta, right?
In Atlanta. Have you been to that one?
I was trying to get down to that one too, but it's not working out this year.
Oh, it's too bad. That's my favorite because it's run by fans, so it doesn't have any
massive
corporate...
for those of you out there that don't know. Definitely just Google it and look at videos on YouTube and everything. It's bigger than most cons that are in the United States, even in international territories as well.
Yeah.
Not as big as San Diego, but it's up there.
Well, it's the biggest fan-run convention in the world. So really, there's no big corporate booths or anything. It's just all these hotels, people dressing up. And it's kind of, I like to think of it as Mardi Gras for nerds because there's a lot of drinking. I'm not a drinker, but I like to watch other people drink. In a creepy way.
That's enjoyable.
Kind of like the picture you have of me.
Right. Well, that's just creepy, and I was just trying to prove a point. But let's talk about your book since you mentioned it here. Felicia Day's brand new book, You're Never Weird on the Internet, and in parentheses, almost. Mm-hmm. That's a very powerful almost, to be considered weird on the internet and not be like a meme or something like that.
You do like a dramatic chipmunk or get a doge.
Or some kind of Yaz cat thing going on.
Yes.
I was going through the book, and a lot of the content in the beginning there explains your childhood, growing up in the South, which even in late 80s, early 90s, still not really into the whole weird online geek culture as it's developing. That's more of a coastal and a city area where they're more accepting of that. But you persevered. I was amazed reading about your education. That I knew you were a musician, but I didn't realize that, math and science, and then going to school on a full violin scholarship, and then you turned down Juilliard, which is like the mecca for music.
Well, it was, I got accepted to kind of the pre-program, which was when you're like 13 to 15, you get into as a feeder school. We just couldn't afford to move to New York for me to study. And I'm kind of glad about that. I mean, I think if you're on that track, you really don't turn away from it. I would have been a violinist no matter what. And by going to UT, like you said, on a full scholarship, I got to actually major more mathematics, and I took a lot of history courses for fun, politics. And UT is one of the biggest colleges in the world, I think. So it was a lot to get dropped into, having been raised sort of in a bubble in my own house.
Right.
But because the music really was small, it kind of took care of me in a way. And I just love learning. So being in that, environment was just kind of, it was really a dream come true.
For a lot of people who, you should go out and definitely get this book, but until you read this book, the thing about college with her is amazing is that you went at 16. So
Yeah.
you were Doogie Howser in real life.
I was, and my mom drove me to college every day. So it was not the formative experience that a lot of people have becoming an adult. I was definitely sort of sheltered, in probably in a good way. If I had been dropped in, just like the 16-year-old, like, hey, what's up, guys? And just all the partying and things, I don't know what would have happened.
Right.
But everyone kind of took care of me like a little sister. And I loved the environment. I loved being around people and especially orchestra, working with people. I think that's why I like filmmaking now, is that you get a bunch of people together with disparate talents, and everybody's contribution is equal. The sound guy, the actor, the director, everybody has
Because everyone has something
set.
invested in it.
Yeah, everyone's invested into the end product.
It's not just a job or you're a union guy where you work on TV shows and move to the next one.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I got into filmmaking myself. I picked up a camera and we just started shooting in my garage, and that sort of feeling of community extended to all the web stuff I do. And that's why I'm still here making stuff for the web versus like only doing television and stuff.
Did you ever, when you got the chance to work with Neil Patrick Harris, did you ever rub it in your face? Like, you played a kid that went to school and everything at 16, but I did it.
No, I kind of wish I could go back in time and do that. It did not occur to me. I need you with me to be able
I will definitely be your publicist doesn't want to hear that, but I would definitely, maybe an assistant of some sort.
Yes.
I would be glad to help with that.
Be able to relate to my friends better.
There was something in the book that I can relate to, and I was really shocked to read this, and actually happy. On page 43, where you talk about Prodigy Online. And you have the screen cap there of the old sign-in and everything, and I sat there and I go, oh my God, I still have my Prodigy email.
Are you kidding?
I still have it. Because Prodigy was an self-contained online service, for those who don't know, back in the early 90s, where you logged in, it had a message board community, it had little posting areas, and you could kind of travel the web, but you needed Prodigy to travel the web. You couldn't just go online and use your browser to search anything. You had to go through Prodigy, just like AOL was. And the fact that you had that made me really happy, because everybody I knew growing up, because we're around the same age, all had AOL. And they were always talking about going to Sam Goody and getting the disc off the counter there. It's like, oh, this has 1,000 free hours. I'm just going to reinstall it and start a new account. And I'm sitting there with my Prodigy account, gray and yellow and white bulletin boards, trying to make friends. Yeah,
and that was where I met the people who loved the video games that I loved, Ultima. And I had private message boxes. I don't know if you.
Yep.
So basically, you couldn't. There was no guys. This is literally the prehistoric days of the internet, and I actually talk about this a lot. Like, that's why I got the career I did, because I was used to like desperately connecting to anybody I knew through the computer, because I couldn't do it physically because I was homeschooled. And after CompuServe, which I couldn't play on that much because it was like very expensive, so the kids, we couldn't jump on. Prodigy was unlimited per month, so I would get on there and just desperately connect with anybody I knew. And it happened to be mostly people who loved the Ultima video game series. So we had private message boxes because there wasn't email. You had to create a different message box in order to leave a message to yourself that then somebody else who had the same login
and in
could
the
see.
very early part, they didn't have multiple accounts on, like you have a family account, right? My dad signed up for it, so I had to use his at first, and then eventually they branched off where you can have, my mom had her account, I had an account, whatever. But the private message thing was, I would look at radio message boards, because I was really into radio and talking with those people. So when they would write back, it was filling up my dad's message box, and he's like, who the hell is this guy? Who's the hell is that guy? What is this? I'm talking about Maniac Mansion, and Commodore game stuff. If you can see, I'm wearing the shirt here.
I know, I was going to point that out.
Stuff like that. And my dad's like, it's like all these messages, I don't know who these people, like he'd get furious, not understanding what exactly it was.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I did the same thing. Also, you don't want your mom reading your messages to boys that you're meeting on the internet. Like, sorry, mom. So we would create like little private accounts that we'd sort of smuggle and log in.
That's exactly the same thing I went through with my mom.
Yeah.
She's like, stop talking to boys on the internet.
Stop. Listen, you got to do what you got to do as a teenager
Right.
to get out. So, it was so funny, but it was such a formative time because that was so much earlier than the internet that we know. But it kind of trained me that my friends would be online around things that I loved, and that's why I think I do what I do now, which is a geek community that makes videos, but primarily allows people to congregate around those videos and connect with each other.
I want to move forward a little bit more. We're here with Felicia Day talking about her book, You're Never Weird on the Internet, Almost. You should definitely go and get it. Talking about when you said making your own projects with your own cameras and building a makeshift staff of friends and whatnot, and everyone's kind of involved with the project here. When you made The Guild, is it fair to say this is the thing that put you on the map? Because you were doing acting, you were on a lot of TV shows and what have you, but the fact that you had a web series, which was unheard of back in, 2007 when the first season, still relatively new with YouTube and things like that, to have a web series and to have that much attention on a televised series on the internet was unheard of.
I would say less that it put me on the map in that I used it to shove in people's faces that this is a map.
Yeah.
Because really, especially mainstream Hollywood, even today, doesn't really credit online entertainment as
Right.
legitimate, quote unquote. We're just like reaching this year, the time when online stars are being developed for television or given all these big production deals and radio shows and television and
Or
movies.
like the guys from Smosh, they just put out a movie.
Just put out
Right.
a movie, but that's just really new. I mean, they're not. Those avenues were not open to people who were innovating on the web. It was really kind of more like indie filmmaking about before Sundance blew up. I think that's more of the analogy. But because I made my show in my garage with a couple of my friends, bare bones, and so many people loved the show, I knew that this was legitimate. I knew that people needed to pay attention because I was showing a story that never would have gotten done through mainstream avenues, but people were congregating around it. It was important to them, and I therefore wanted to make sure that people knew it was important to pay attention to. So it's been a long journey in web content, but now web content it's going to be equal to television. The numbers are declining on that, and people are watching stuff on YouTube more. So I think it's all converging to you can actually move mountains by just starting something in your garage. And I think that's an awesome journey and definitely a core lesson of my book.
You're one of those, to use a hip-hop term, one of those OG people that paved the way for everyone else to figure out that not only can you do it, you can also make money off of it down the road if you put enough work into it, and people will come and follow and like what you're doing. You don't have to change yourself to fit an audience. It's like, here I am putting it out there. Eventually people will come around and figure out what you're all about and be like, I like what they're doing. I can relate to that. I'm subscribing to you.
Yeah, no, and I think that's beautiful because if you look at the people who are big on the internet and made an impact, nothing that they do would ever have succeeded by going to somebody on television or movies and saying, hey, somebody will like this. They would never have said that gamers are a big enough audience to drive the kind of numbers that they consider significant.
Right.
And I think, because the internet is the world, you can make an awesome living just by talking to your audience, however big or small it is. Like even web comics, they are able to support themselves through Patreon,
right,
and make a living making web comics because people support what they love. So I think that's a beautiful thing, and obviously is more of a democracy in the kind of content we like. And to me, it's all so much more important to make something that means something to someone rather than trying to please everybody with what you're making.
The Guild, like I said, was one of the first things to really show that you could do something on the internet that people would follow and enjoy, making an episodic series and what have you. That first season did so well that eventually in the second season you got the attention of Microsoft, and then they started putting you across all their platforms, which was amazing. But there was if I'm remembering it correctly, there was a bit of a dispute because they weren't paying you or something, right?
No, well, for the first season, we made the first couple episodes on our own dime, like, hundreds of dollars. And we didn't have more because we were just actors who were kind of making our way. And I decided to put a PayPal button up on our website that I made from scratch because this was before Kickstarter. And it was kind of on a whim. And surprisingly, people started donating money to us, which was no crowdfunding had been existing at that point. So we actually got through the first season being able to refuse a lot of bad Hollywood deals to make more where they would take the show away from us because people supported us directly. And for season 2, Microsoft made us this great deal that paid for everything and put us on their platform. So we actually made the show with them for like 4 seasons, and really grew to immense proportions because really Xbox is where gamers were and they loved the show. So it was a great deal, and they don't own the show, so I still own it. I could like revive it tomorrow if I wanted, which is very unusual in Hollywood because mostly the people who pay for a show take the rights away from you.
Right. So it was a unique deal. How much risk were you putting in? I mean, I know there was a lot of fun and a lot of hard work, and pretty much was identifying you as an internet personality by doing the Guild, but how much risk was going into it as far as what you were putting in?
I mean, I definitely put a lot of money into it, and I turned down a lot of opportunities, and I didn't focus as much on my acting career. So, I mean, it was a risk in that I found something that was more inspiring to spend my time on, and that really isn't a risk, because even if it hadn't been popular, I would have found meaning in making the show and connecting with the audience and making people laugh. Like that really gave me the meaning that I was looking for in life. And that's kind of the heart of my story, is that by embracing the things that made me different, that didn't fit me into the mainstream of Hollywood, that I found the thing that got me up in the morning and made me excited to work and not think about working 15 hours a day to get word out on my show or make the episodes. So, and I think that's the core, is that embracing the things that make you different is your superpower. Those are your superpowers that will make you happy, and find the thing that you can make a career out of, or just wake up and be happy every day doing.
Talking to your audience, the fan base that you have already, with this book, what could you say that they would be surprised to find out about you?
I think a lot of the childhood stuff I haven't really talked about publicly. Even I learned so much about myself in the process of putting together the pieces of my upbringing. And then also toward the end, there are a couple of chapters about depression and anxiety that I really struggled putting on the page in a really authentic way. But I'm really proud of sharing, because although you think of somebody you admire and you think they have everything you kind of want and they're fancy, in the end, nobody's fancy and nobody has success without a lot of struggle. Success can be as much pressure as failure. And that's what I learned going through some really dark times in my life. And I hope by sharing, especially my struggle with anxiety over the years, which I didn't even realize until later looking back on my life, I hope that other people will be brave enough to examine their own life and maybe see the same things, or things that are similar, and get help. Because it wasn't until I really got help and saw myself outside all those things that were going on in my head, telling me I was an imposter or things were going to blow up and disaster scenarios all the time, that I've been able to really be happy.
I just saw, I know you're good friends with Will Wheaton. I just saw he, not too long ago, put out a video for this project, You Are Okay. And he was talking about the depression that he had, which, based on seeing this guy doing countless geek projects with Chris Hardwick and Star Trek and all these other things, you'd have no idea all this stuff was going on. I don't want to say behind the scenes, but inside of him, while putting up the front for what you see in public. Yeah, no,
and I think if you read Chris Hardwick's book, he went through amazingly hard times, struggling with recovery and all these things. And I do think the core of it is that no one you see that you kind of admire or aspire to be ever had an easy road of it. And even their day-to-day road being up there, famous or notable, that's not an easy road either. And if you are looking for something external to give you happiness, if you just get there, or if you just achieve this, you'll be happy, I don't think you're always going to be unhappy. So what it is finding that meaning in yourself to accept who you are, regardless of how weird you are or the things that make you different. Finding a community to make you feel accepted, and being able to wake up every day knowing that you're doing something that gives you meaning. That's where real success is, and everything else is kind of external.
Focusing back on the book here, for Felicia Day, You're Never Weird on the Internet, in parentheses, almost. The foreword is done by a relatively unknown Joss Whedon.
That guy.
Yeah, that guy. Who is he? What has he done?
I just wanted to give him a leg up. I'm just kidding.
Paying it forward, are you?
Yeah, just rubbing off on other people. No, Joss is, obviously, he's been an advocate of my career for many, many years.
I know you've been in many projects of his.
I have been very privileged to work with him over the years, and starting with Buffy way before I started the Guild or online stuff, and then to Dr.
You
Horrible.
were Vi in Buffy, right?
I was Vi in Buffy. Dollhouse I was in.
Which was very good, unfortunately short-lived, but very good.
Yeah, I was also in the comics for that. The lore around that show was really cool, and I wish they had been able to explore it more in the show. And then Dr. Horrible. So I have known him for many years. He's somebody who is a mentor and somebody I admire. And I emailed him to ask for a blurb because, people endorsing your work is really important when you make a book. And I knew that Ultron was coming out just literally that week, and I felt like a jerk even emailing him.
Right.
So I was like, hey, I'm really sorry, but is it possible for you to give me a blurb for my book? You have 3 weeks. It's fine. Faster would be better. And then he wrote back immediately and said, he read the book, and he was like, well, I don't know if I could do a blurb. Can I write a forward? And I was like, your movie's coming out. It's the biggest movie ever made. What are you thinking? Yes, please.
At least he didn't write back and say, who is this?
Yeah, that's true. Oh, maybe one day.
And maybe instead of asking for the blurb, maybe you said, can I get an extra part in Ultron?
No, I think there's nothing more uncomfortable than trying to beg your friends for a job. Blurbs are pretty uncomfortable too. Anyway, but the great thing is he did lend some words, and the fantastic thing is that the stories he relates in the forward are actually things that I had in the book, but I cut out later just because it didn't go with the narrative that I wanted to tell. But
right.
I'm really glad those stories got in there, and obviously they were impactful on him as well as me, and hopefully fans will enjoy it.
And prepping for this interview, and I'm really kicking myself over this, but I'm a very big fan of Funko. And I wanted to get your Funko figure, and I didn't do it. So, a missed opportunity. That's my fault. I'm not blaming you at all. I'm just saying it's a missed opportunity. But I want to talk about the fact that you have the figure for your character Charlie on Supernatural.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
They even came out with a little mini packs of Funkos now, where there's another Charlie. She's a LARPing Charlie.
Is that like the keychain ones?
Yeah, the little ones that I guess you get a random box, what you get. Those are fun too. Yeah, no, I mean, that was a achievement unlocked situation, I think.
I was going to say, that's the pinnacle of most people's careers when you have your own toy or action figure.
It's true, and that might be it. Thanks a lot.
Well, no, that's great for Christmas. You just, pack them all up, send them to everybody in your family.
I do have a bunch in my house that I use as gifts. I did have a Penny figurine. Quantum Mechanics, I think, released a Penny. But a Funko is the one thing I actually collect. I have Daenerys and her dragons. I'm kind of an anti-clutter person because my mom is a very big clutterer. So in order to push back against that, I don't keep a lot of things.
Right.
But Funkos are my favorite. Even though they fall over all the time, they're adorable.
Yeah, because they're very top-heavy.
They are. Yeah. It's all about the head.
Too bad they don't make a little stage or a mount to snap them onto.
They do. They come
do?
with the Funko. I didn't know this. I just threw out the packaging. There is a stand that comes with the Funkos.
Oh my God, I threw out so many stands.
Yeah, me too.
Wow. All right, I'll have to go to eBay and see who's selling there. Yeah. But yeah, I collect them too. I had to prevent the hoarding stuff. Doctor Who. I had to prevent all the hoarding stuff, so I had to focus. I had tons of stuff that I was collecting, and I had to focus it down to two specific areas of things that I was fans of. One is The Simpsons, the other is Doctor Who. Everything else had to go.
Everything is extraneous. Yeah, you really have to focus as a geek because you can have a lot of passions.
I had Transformers and Voltron and video game stuff, and I was just like, I can't have all of this.
Stand for something. Although everybody gives me Funkos now, so I have a lot of extraneous Funkos.
At least they don't give you your own Funko.
That would be awkward.
Yeah. It's like, here's you. My gift to you is you.
Actually, in the book, I have a picture on the fan chapter of all the dolls that people give of me.
Right.
And I keep them all because I don't want to get rid of them ever because they made them.
Right.
So I look at myself a lot.
Where do you keep them?
In my office that I look at every morning. So it's a little bit odd. I might need to move it at a certain point.
All right, fair enough. Or, maybe it goes to a good cause. You sign them and
that's a good idea.
And donate them to a charity or something.
No, but
like
they're
that.
mine.
Oh,
Sorry.
Okay, then keep them for yourself. For some other projects that you worked on, we got to wrap up here. I'm running out of time with you. But I didn't realize until I went and rewatched the series on Netflix, but I was a big fan of Lie to Me.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And there you were. You popped up, and then you were in House.
Yep.
You had these you show up in all these little things, like a quick little one-off side character or something in there. Like, you're in everything.
Yeah, well, I got to keep my health insurance.
Right.
And I do like working. Like, unfortunately, especially with Geek Sundry, which I'm very fortunate to have a company that makes a lot of web series. I'm not in face-wise, but producing that and making a company run and is a lot of work. And I've had to take a little bit of a back seat in accepting roles the last couple of years. But I'm getting back into that because I sold the company to Legendary, and I get to just be creative officer for that and influence on the top, which is great. And, hopefully getting back into my own show that I'm creating for myself and, finding another show like Supernatural to be a family of. And
now being part of the Nerdist family, do they at least give you free clothing, or do you have to buy the hoodie or something?
Nerdist and Geek Sundry are kind of sister brother companies. So we have all our own hoodies, and we get to take each other's company.
So it's
hoodies.
a swap.
Oh, they're swapping. Oh,
okay. It's almost like the pin collections.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cute.
Yeah.
We should get into that.
I gotta go. Two less quick things. Doctor Who, where are you on that?
I'm love Peter Capaldi. I'm huge. I was a Tennant fan, so Matt Smith, as charming as he is,
Did you cry when Tennant left?
Yes.
All right, me too.
And I didn't
I'm not
watch
afraid
it.
to say it.
I watched everything on way delay because I was just like, "You're no Who."
Right. All right, so good. You're still with that. And then the final thing to end the show here, let me plug the book again. You're Never Weird on the Internet, Almost, a book by Felicia Day, forward by Joss Whedon. If that's not enough to get the book, I don't know what else to tell you. But as we close the show here, I'm going to play this as we end here. But you did an amazing version of Still Alive at PAX in 2008 with... Jonathan, is it Colton? Is
Colton, yeah.
Colton, right? He's the guy that created the song Still Alive, which is the end song for Portal. Mm-hmm. Big
Iconic.
Portal fan?
Yeah, huge Portal fan. And it's funny because before I sang this, I don't sing live. I have horrible stage fright. And I actually almost threw up right before I did this. So I could not be more frightened when I'm singing this, which I think helps, the song.
You did great.
Thank you. No, I did. It's a stage fright thing. I can't help it. It's my brain is wired wrong.
Well, if you're a big Portal fan, the closest we're going to get to Portal 3 is Lego Dimensions coming out this fall. There's a huge Portal section in there.
There's a couple of other games that I'm playing, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but I'll email it to you.
All right, please do.
That is Portal-ish.
Maybe we can be friends on Xbox or something like that.
Wow, you're bold.
I know. I'm trying. This is probably the last time I'm going to see you, so I'm risking it all.
If you friend me, I'll friend you.
Awesome.
On Xbox.
You heard
I only
it
have
here.
about 10 friends on Xbox too, so
okay.
You're privileged few.
All right, we'll play Portal together.
Okay.
We'll do the co-op mission on Portal 2.
Okay, awesome.
That sounds amazing. Felicia Day, thank you so much for your time. I hope to see you at New York Comic Con and your other projects down the line.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.